Okay, movie idea. You're trapped in space while your country back home is collapsing.
So you're just orbiting in the space station or like on a ship, and your country back home is just devolving into chaos.
Yeah.
And the government's falling apart. And so
you're
now
watching with a telescope.
Well, yeah, because there's no government now. You can't get home.
Yeah, you're stuck up there.
That sucks.
Well, it's based on a true story because there's a guy that we call the last Soviet, and he was an astronaut in space while the Soviet Union was collapsing. True story.
This is things I learned last night. Every week we learn about an interesting topic, and this week we learn about the last Soviet. So like, subscribe, follow our stuff, and thanks for checking out this episode.
Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of Sergei Krikalev?
Sergei
Krikalev.
Krikalev. Nope.
Krikalev. Sergei Konstantinovich Krikalev.
No.
It's a Russian guy.
Fiddle Off. Our show is just naming random Russian people, and we'll eventually do our highest listened to episode is when we finally got to, you ever heard of Yakov Smirnov? I was like, yes.
Yes.
You know, Fiddle Off, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Sergei Krikalev.
Yeah. You don't have to keep trying. You can call him Sergei.
We'll just call him Sergei.
Oh, okay.
Sergei, I don't know if you can tell what he does by this picture.
He's a clown.
He's a clown. He's a Russian cosmonaut. They call them cosmonauts, not astronauts.
Which is honestly
sick.
Cooler.
Pretty
it's cooler.
Freaking sick. And I
wonder if they're like astronaut.
Oh, gross.
So cool.
You know what though? I found out from this. The word cosmonaut, and I think astronaut's the same thing. I never knew this. Do you know where that word comes from?
From not?
Yeah, the whole phrase. Where does the word astronaut cosmonaut
like
come
nautical?
from? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's space nautical.
Yeah, so you're
astronomy.
They're space sailors.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what
so
cool. You didn't like that I knew that?
Yeah, I hate that you knew that.
Yeah.
But I never knew that until I was researching this.
It's actually named after Nautica, the shoe brand.
Because they sponsored them.
Because they were like, all right, we'll call them astronauts.
They're like, we need $25 million to get to space. And Nautica stepped up.
Did someone say space?
They're like, we've got just the shoe.
Yeah.
The space.
That's exactly how space travel would happen now. If we did the moon landing now, it'd be like sponsored by Nike.
Yeah, we need to find a sponsor
just
for it.
Just moon it.
Yeah. Yeah, I respect that. I like that. I like that slogan for Nike.
Just moon it.
Just moon it. So Sergei is an astronaut for
cosmonaut.
Thank you, cosmonaut,
space sailor
for Soviet Russia. This is USSR peak space race when he's working
60s.
for. Yeah, well, I shouldn't say peak space race, late space race.
80s.
Yeah, 80s. Russia now is operating the Mir satellite, which I probably should have got a picture of the Mir satellite. I'm going to do that real quick while I talk about it.
Okay.
The Mir satellite stands for peace. And it was before the International Space Station.
The largest satellite.
The largest, yeah. And
do you know that, while you're looking that up, do you know there's those two people stranded on the International Space Station right now?
Yes.
And they were told this week that it could be up to a year?
Yeah. Because of Boeing.
Crazy.
That's wild. It's wild that Boeing is having all this stuff go on right now, and they also got astronauts stuck in space.
We were talking about that this morning because we rolled into the airport, and SpaceX has a plane that's just at the airport for some reason.
Interesting.
It was a SpaceX logoed plane.
Interesting.
But it was over like on the private airfield side.
Yeah.
And there's a huge Boeing office.
Yeah.
And so I told Ray, I said, they might be at Boeing being trying to figure out how to get those people off
Interesting.
the International Space Station.
Yeah, because they're just stuck because the Boeing thing doesn't work. Interesting. So Mir, this is the Mir space station. Honestly, looks pretty close to the International Space Station, just a little smaller. Was the first coupled structure in space. So they flew up and they coupled them together, like that scene in Interstellar where it was like super stressful and they're like,
actually
like spinning.
I don't remember. So Interstellar, I watched when I was at like a youth conference.
Oh, interesting.
And then we went to go watch it, but we were all so exhausted. It was the three of us, and we were exhausted from the conference.
Oh yeah. So you just watched it glazed over.
Yes.
Yeah, and like don't remember any of it.
The other guy with me straight up fell asleep in the middle, and then woke up and was like, "Who's this guy?" And it was like,
who are you?
Like, listen, we can't
explain.
I just got the AMC movie pass.
Do they still do that? I thought that got discontinued.
They brought
really?
it back. And it's up to 3 movies a week, so it's a little limited.
A little less,
it's not as unlimited. But
that's a good deal.
It's pretty freaking worth it.
How much is it?
$25 a month.
That's so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went and watched
per person.
Yeah,
per person. But
so
still,
we went and watched.
You go twice a week. You've got it.
Yeah,
you go twice in a month. You've got it.
Right. And
that's
so
crazy.
we're going to a lot more movies.
Dope. Now. Anyways,
pretty sick.
Well, Interstellar is worth watching again. While we're on the topic, you should watch it again. It's a great film. But the Mir space station was a technological marvel,
right?
And
what year did it get put together?
It was getting put together. So it's similar to the ISS now. It's continually expanding, kind of like your nephew's Lego
kind of like a upper middle class family's house in rural Missouri, where they keep adding.
Yeah, but none of it ever works.
Yeah, none of it makes sense.
Yeah, you're just like, what is this?
There used to be a 1-car garage. Now it's a 2-car garage with a bathroom
in the garage. Yeah.
No, the back part's the bathroom.
Yeah, the back part's
the laundry room.
Yeah, in the laundry room. Yeah, and there's the master bedroom. You got to walk through one of the other bedrooms now to get to it.
Yes,
and it's way bigger.
Yeah.
Huge master bedroom. Yeah.
Mm.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar concept. They've been expanding it over time, and the space race was a weird time where it very much was like a game of one-upmanship.
Oh, for sure.
Between the U.S. and Soviet Russia. And Soviet Russia, with the exception...
And then we also beat them in hockey. That was a big deal. The hockey team won. It was a miracle.
On ice.
Actually, is there a bar that I can order? Can I just get a... Can I get a Miracle on Ice?
That's kind of cool.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We could open a sports bar.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
We should open a sports bar.
Just for this one.
This one started it all. It was a play on words.
It was a play on words.
The drink's trash. It's not good. It's pretty bad, to be honest.
It's awful. It's awful. Yeah. Honestly, you should probably get it not on
cinnamon
ice.
Mint. Yeah.
Nasty
no alcohol. It's seltzer water, 2 pumps of cinnamon dulce, and a sprig of mint
toothpaste. Just a squirt of mint
and
toothpaste.
Crest too. Crest. So you're gonna get freaking cold sores, dude.
Oh gosh, that hits.
Like a miracle.
Can't wait to finish brushing my teeth.
It's a miracle anyone finishes it.
Miracle you got out of here alive.
All right. Anyway, so it's like it's a one-upment of like, we went to space. No, we went to space and we did this. And
I think a lot of people
took 4 people to space.
Here's the thing. A lot of people get it twisted that the US won the space race because we did. But all we really did better was the moon.
Yeah.
For the majority of the space race, Soviet Russia was in the lead. They got the first satellite up. They got the Mir up. They had more people in space. They got the first people in space.
It doesn't matter. We've talked about this before. Like, if you don't win the presidency, no one remembers you as a vice president. So they did a bunch of vice president stuff in space.
I think a better example is it's kind of like the NFL. If you won a bunch of championships before the Super Bowl era, it doesn't really matter.
Who cares?
The Super Bowl era is what mattered. That's what.
But also, name a single lineman.
It's just in general.
Yeah.
That's active now.
Yeah.
It's harder active now.
Harder.
I can name people before. I can name people.
No, I know sports. Name a single lineman.
Yeah, you don't get points for linemen in fantasy, so I don't know any of them.
Yeah. And that's the point.
Yeah, that's funny. I was watching.
Funny?
No, I was watching. Have you watched? Do you watch Hard Knocks?
No.
Do you know what Hard Knocks is?
Yeah.
In Hard Knocks, they're doing the Bears this year, which is more fun for me. They show there's this tradition that the team has. I've never heard of this, but I don't know if it's new or if they've done it for a long time. But now I do it. In training camp, they make all the rookies go up front and do karaoke. But before they do karaoke, they have to introduce themselves, and they say their name, where they went to college, their draft position, the position they play, and their sign-on bonus. And then they do the karaoke song of their choice.
Sure.
And in Hard Knocks, they had Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams goes. Caleb was their first-round draft pick, the quarterback who's supposed to save the team. And so
hopefully
he goes on, does this whole thing.
Gosh, they need it
his
too.
Sign-on.
They're so trash.
He goes
they need him to pull them from the gutter. Because they've been trying to get this new stadium built. And Chicago's like, we're not going to do it if you keep losing games. All right. And so they're like, well, fine, we'll start winning. Here's Caleb.
That Chicago accent was awful.
Here's how much money we gave Caleb.
So his sign-on bonus was $20.5 million. And so he does his sign-on bonus, then he does his song. And then they bring on, I don't know what round they picked him, like 6th round lineman. He comes up, he does his intro.
My sign-on bonus was a gift card to Chili's.
His sign-on was $20,000. And so, coming after 20.5 to 20,000 is insane. Now, to be fair, I
bought a Honda Accord with it.
How about a 2007 Honda Accord?
30,000 miles. Excited to be here.
Here's the thing. Once
I'm from here,
a lineman who gets to a starting lineman will still make like $1 million a year.
That's the lowest they can.
But they gotta become a starter.
Right.
But yeah. It's just
I was explaining preseason the other day to my wife because she was like, "What? I don't understand what we're doing."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Well, not all of these people are going to be on the team.
Yeah, they're not going to make it." Yeah,
she's like, "So you could be playing in the preseason for an NFL team? Like you could have got drafted and made it, and then still get cut."
Yeah,
and I said, "Yep,
yeah, it's pretty devastating."
Same thing with our kids.
What?
You can get born, you can make it into the family, but by year 2 is when I finalize the roster.
Yeah. And if you're not sharp enough at year 2, go find a new family, loser.
We've been picnicking without you.
No, but what?
In the early days of this show, we did like affiliate ads where we were like, hey, sign up for Grammarly and use code TILLN and we got like 15 cents. And now we just do Patreon. It's a much better way. It's better for us as creators. It's better for you as listeners. And it's a much more fun way for us to interact. We do monthly hangouts like on Zoom. We just hang out and play games online and get to know each other. It's a really fun time. So, but still use our code TILLN at Grammarly.com because I think it's still active. It is still active. Might get like a couple cents from that. Yeah. But join us on Patreon because we're having a great time.
Yeah. If you don't, we're going to have to start doing mobile game ads.
Yeah, it's a pretty drastic difference between the
Yeah, it's interesting. They're all wealthy. All of them are wealthy, but there is a wealth gap.
Not all of them.
Well, the minimum salary you can make on the active roster, I think it's $250,000 a year. So you're still wealthy.
Sure,
but there's a wealth gap.
But that's like league wide, right?
Yeah.
So you're wealthy. You play for the Chiefs and make $250 in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But if you play for the Washington Commanders and make $250 in Washington D.C.,
you're still upper middle class.
Yeah. Sure. Upper middle class playing alongside.
Yeah, there's a wealth gap. That's what I'm saying is there's a big wealth gap. Everyone is doing well. It's like when Mahomes
signed his...
But some people are doing better.
Mahomes signed his gigantic contract.
Yeah.
And then some of the other teammates were like, hey, we're going to a movie. You want to go? And he's like, I can't go to movies. And they were like... Oh yeah, you're Patrick Mahomes.
That's right. I didn't realize that.
I forgot that everyone who doesn't even watch football knows who you are.
Yeah.
Crazy.
He can buy out the theater if he wants to go.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I'm sure he's got that in his house, right?
He's got AMC Movie Pass.
That's why he built that whole thing. Yeah, he's got AMC Movie Pass, as in like I own 56% of the stocks. Why pay $24 a month when I can just buy all the stock?
Buy the company.
Goes up quite a bit. I mean, people are, people are excited. Patrick Mahomes is roaring kitty.
Okay, so the Mir satellite, all this to say,
right?
The Soviet Russia was winning.
Space is crazy.
Soviet Russia was winning the space race up until the moon landing thing, and then
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The moon landing we won the Super Bowl. They won the rest of history of the and then we came in and won the Super Bowl at the last inning, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh,
last inning!"
Yeah. And everyone's like, "Oh, who cares about Soviet Russia?" We scored the last goal, and so Mir satellite. Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing about the Mir satellite that I never knew about. The Soviet Russia, towards the end of Soviet Russia in like the 80s, didn't really have enough operating cash to operate it. So what they would do is they would reach out to sponsors to sponsor trips to.
Oh, we weren't joking.
Yeah, to the satellite. And what they would be is they'd go to like state sponsors or museums or academic institutions and say, hey, if you could put up
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. If you could put up like, I don't know, 15 million, we could send one of your researchers up and they could be up there for like 3 months or 2 weeks or whatever and do some research. Or maybe say you've got like a tourist you want to set up.
But the problem is
so they would send up space tourists.
At the launch pad's pretty full.
So you gotta ride
their bike there. We've got like a bike rack.
We've got a bike rack and everything. And so what typically would happen is there would be an engineer who was the person who actually knew how to run the space station and dock and fly the space shuttle and all that stuff. So the engineer knew how to do all the technical stuff. Then there was a flight captain who was the boss man. And then there would be the sponsored person. So it was either a scientist from somewhere, a researcher, or a space tourist. And they were basically the people behind them paid for that trip. Okay. And so they got to go just kind of for fun.
Space tourism
and everyone else.
They're basically just fronting the money for something actually happening.
Not now, but back then, yes. The United States never did space tourism because we just dumped every penny we had in it for a while because we're like, this would be cool if we're better than Soviet Russia. And then Soviet Russia went away, and so there was no one to be better than, so we just stopped caring. That's why we don't go back to the moon. It's not because we never went there. It's because there's no one to beat. If one of these other countries started looking like they're going to go, then you better believe we're back.
So back,
we're
baby.
So back. The problem with the last...
The problem with the last 50 years is
that
there's not 30 enough people to assert our dominance over.
The problem with the last 30 years is there's no one for us to beat. We're better than everybody by so much. We haven't had anyone to beat. And so we haven't done anything super cool. This is why other
countries hate us,
We haven't done anything super cool except for the Olympics. Which, speaking of the Olympics, did you see what China did?
What'd they do?
Do you see? So after the Olympics,
yeah,
they put out a report, their own gold medal list, their own medal list.
Okay.
And so what they did is they said, hey, so technically speaking, like the list that the Olympics put out is the U.S. won the most medals in this year's Olympics.
But China
was like, actually, their list is a little wrong because we also, Taiwan is us. And so we have all of Taiwan's medals also. And then they're like, also, if you look at the United States and you take out, this is rough. If you take out everyone descended from the African slave trade, then the United States actually has significantly less.
They did
medals.
Not say
they
that.
100% said that. And they were like, and also if you take out everyone who is of Jewish descent, then they're way lower than us. And we are actually in first place because of that. That's what they said.
If you're racist, the numbers add up.
Like if you're racist and you give us a lot more medals from another country that we just think is ours,
that is ours,
then we're better than you. So honestly, look, China's trying. And so that tells me that maybe in a few years they could be trying to go to the moon, and that gives me hope that we have someone to crush.
Right. That could mean that we
need someone to be better than. We're too better than everyone. We got so good.
That could mean that
we're neck and neck with Soviet Russia.
Up our sleeves.
We're not putting on the Ritz.
We got thunder in our feet and lightning in our fists. This either sounds like, for the people who don't know the callback, this either sounds like a we're just coming up with a poem.
Yeah.
Or it sounds like a children's cartoon Halloween chant where we're around a cauldron.
Oh, yeah.
Thunder in his footsteps. Lightning in his fists.
The ghost comes out.
Kill China. Kill. Like, just kids.
Like, whoa, I can't believe we watched this in the 50s.
Whoa, all right.
Halloween movies were different back then.
That's what I'm saying.
So, anyways, that's that. I have no idea what is up here. Oh, so space tourism.
Yeah.
So that's how they would get to space.
Right.
Sergei was an astronaut, and Sergei went on a lot of these trips as the engineer. He was the engineer on the trips. He's had a lot of space flights. And then there was an important flight he went on May 19th, 1991. He leaves on the Soyuz TM-12, launches as the engineer with Commander Anatoly. I love this name a lot, by the way. Anatoly Artsebarsky. Artsebarsky. Anatoly Artsebarsky.
There's no way that's right.
Artsebarsky.
Artsebarsky?
Artsebarsky. Hello,
You're just saying it enough.
I'm Mr. Artsebarsky.
Artsebarsky.
I am Mr. Artsebarsky. So Artsebarsky and Sergei.
Artsebarsky.
They go up with British astronaut Helen Sharman. So Sharman was the sponsored person to go on this trip to do some research.
Of the toilet paper.
What kind of toilet paper? What does toilet paper do in space? Turns out it's paper. It's still paper in space. No, she was like a biologist or something like that. I don't know. She was supposed to be up there for 2 weeks. She did some experiments and stuff up there while she was there. So Sergei's up in space.
Okay.
She's there for like 2 weeks. He's supposed to be there for a few months.
Few months. That's crazy.
Yeah. So what they would do on these trips is
how do we get the people off the International Space Station? You know what I'm saying? Like,
you take another. So what happens? And they did it.
You go up there and you dock.
They did it the same way here. So you would have a ship that would go up, it would dock, and then you would switch crews. So the crew would go back with the other ship, and then everyone else would get on.
Like bus drivers.
Yeah, and then the bus would leave and go back to Earth.
Okay.
And yeah, that's how.
Allegedly, we've never broken the firmament.
Yeah.
So who knows? I had to throw in some keywords, flat Earth.
Yeah,
try to get their keywords for the YouTube algorithm. And Spotify. And Apple Podcasts.
Okay, thanks.
All places you could subscribe. And Patreon.com.
So they would, so they're going to be up there for a few months.
Sure.
And she's going to run her experiments. Experiments. He's up there for a little bit. While he's up there, notices somewhere in the ship he finds a note. A hidden note.
Are you messing?
I'm 100% serious.
Finds a note?
A note. And the note has like a numeric code on it. And for a little bit, he's like, what is this? And after a few weeks...
Did you just bait me?
I didn't bait you. I didn't bait you. This is not a bait. There's no aliens involved here, allegedly, as far as we know. I mean, the aliens were probably present. They were probably watching. Okay. They probably knew about all this. Yeah. They don't enter the story at all.
Got it. Okay.
They're not part of the story, but they're there. They're always there. So
they're all around us.
He finds this note and it's got like a numerical code on it, right? And he spends some days looking at it, trying to figure out what it was. And then he realizes, oh, wait, this is a ham radio frequency. That's what this is.
Ham radio?
Ham radio.
Yeah.
You know what ham radio is?
Yeah, you used to be able to put the antennas that are on top of your TV?
Yeah.
With the foil and stuff? You used to just...
stick a ham on there, a honey baked ham.
Stick it in a ham.
And it increased it. It's like CB radio, but earlier and like cooler. It was like a hobby thing. People would get on ham radio and talk to each other. Kind of like this. This is an example of ham radio. Here's another example. Here's another example. Here, I got one more example. Hold on, here's another example of ham radio. Hold on, you can't look away. I got more examples of ham radio. Keep looking. Hold on, I want to show you more ham radio. Hold on, here's another ham radio. Hold on, here's another example of ham radio. Hey, I got another one. Here's another ham radio. Hold on, here's one more. Oh, you might be saying, Tim, that's a different guy. But wait, zoom in. There he is.
Why did you do this?
I I don't know. It's really funny to me.
I was wondering why you were kind of lighting up talking about ham radio. You were like, what's a ham radio frequency? You know what a ham radio is? I was like, why are you so excited about this?
About ham radio.
Well, you spent 15 minutes collecting the images for this episode. We could have started way earlier.
I did. I had to get all these pictures of ham radio.
Of Smokey?
Yeah.
And the bandit?
Yeah, he's talking on his ham radio. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like it, there is some great news for you. We have a mailing list. In that mailing list, we give updates on past episodes. So things in the news, things that happen for episodes. We've got over 200 episodes we've done. And every week, things are changing. New updates are coming out. And we're keeping you up to date on what's happening in the happenings of TILLN Topics. So if you want to keep learning stuff, even beyond the content of the episodes, that's a great place to do it. Also, we give updates on things that's happening in the TILLN verse. I like that. I've never said TILLN verse before, but I'm sticking with it. If you want to know what's happening in the TILLN verse, that's the best place to do it. You can go to TILLN.com. There's a link in the description, or you can text TILLN to 66866. There's a lot of ways to sign up for the mailing list to make sure you keep up to date with everything that we've talked about and everything that's going on in the TILLN verse. But anyways, now back to this episode. So Sergei gets his ham radio out.
Is this whole episode just for that bit?
Yeah. Nothing else is interesting. Yeah. No, Sergei gets
ham radio out. I was like, hey guys, we're coming back. They went back. They landed. Mission successful. Russia didn't win.
So Sergei gets on
his radio.
Sergei gets on his radio.
Goes this frequency.
He goes on that frequency. Nothing. It's just static. So he starts making call signs on it and everything, trying to see if he can catch someone.
Yeah.
Doesn't catch anyone. And every night, this becomes like his hobby. They've got tasks. They've got jobs to do all day. They have to also, because they're up there long enough.
He's doing like what they do on Lost, where he's just punching the numbers.
Kinda, yeah. He wakes up every day. He does his workout because they have to do workouts or else they atrophy.
Have you seen?
So he does his workouts. He does his job.
Chronological?
I saw that that's like a thing that someone's doing. That sounds like that would probably be awful.
Yeah. Because like what they're doing is they've taken the flashbacks that they had during Lost and they just made it all in order of the events that took place. So like, you see the flashbacks and stuff before you see them on the island.
Yeah.
So there's no suspense. When they get, by the time they get to the island, you know all the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah. Which sounds awful.
Does sound awful, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's the wrong way to watch that show.
I agree.
Anyways.
The right way is to just not watch it.
So he is getting on that frequency, doing his little call signs every night. And then one night, he's floating over Australia and he does his call signs and he gets a response.
Crikey.
And there's a lady there who's a ham radio enthusiast. She's a high school science teacher.
Oh,
and she likes
teacher.
She just
I thought he was about to be talking to a high schooler.
High school science teacher. She likes ham radio and it's like her hobby. She also knows rudimentary Russian. And so they start talking and she's like, oh, hey, you're one of the Russians up on the Mir space station, right? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? And he said, I can
tell by your voice.
I speak a little bit of Russian and I picked up from whatever. And she's like, well, how's it going? Whatever. They're just chit-chatting. They kind of are building like a pen pal relationship-ish. And then something interesting starts to happen. Imagine you're on the space station.
You walk in and one of the people on the space station is talking to a woman in Australia on the phone. And you're kind of like...
and you walk out and he's like, what?
And he's like... nothing.
Just
I'll call you back.
I'm just on my ham radio. Yeah, it's a little strange. But they're developing a little bit of a
So how often
friendship.
are they talking?
Pretty much every night. And this is ham radio. This is kind of like it's similar to like IM in like the 2000s. Right. Like it's not weird, but it's weird, You know what I'm saying? Like it's not weird, but it is weird.
It's weird.
It's not weird, but it's weird, But it's
like, wow, you sound really cute.
Oh my gosh.
So like what do you do in Australia?
It wasn't anything like that.
Maybe when I get back, we can go to an opera.
An opera?
At the Opera House? Sydney Opera House?
Okay. I thought you thought that was a Russian thing.
Maybe when I get back, we can go to an opera or I have the AMC movie pass.
So they're talking.
Australian movie company.
He starts getting it starts becoming harder for him to get contact with Mission Control. And so he starts thinking maybe something's up with his relationship with Mission Control. And I should be clear.
Hey, are you guys ignoring me?
Are you guys good?
He's just passive aggressive. And they're like, no, we're good. Is something wrong? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. We know you've been talking to Australia.
Houston, we have a problem. No, we don't.
No, we don't. First of all, don't call me Houston. Second of all.
Yeah. It's Moscow.
Moscow. So he knows the political situation in Soviet Russia is not great right now.
Right.
About a year before he left, this happened, which was the biggest concert Soviet Russia had ever seen.
Yeah, Chapel Roan.
There was a parliament election that was like the most democratic election that they've ever seen.
Right.
And it like changed the face of the government. And things were shaking up in the Soviet Union. Yeah.
Right,
and there was some of the like outer states were being like, hey, we kind of want to be our own thing.
Right.
And there was like a lot of tension rising when he left. And he started to kind of gather that something was up while he was in orbit, because his contact with the command center was becoming more and more limited.
Sure.
They weren't sharing everything with him, but he felt like something was happening that they weren't telling him. So he gets on his ham radio, and his ham radio friend starts becoming his like unbiased news source to be like, here's what's happening on the ground while you're in space. And so long story short, he leaves in May of 1913. He's supposed to be there till March.
Of 19 when?
Oh, sorry. 1991. He leaves in May of 1991. He's supposed to be there, or May of 1989. May of 1991. May of 1991. Yes, sorry.
When he leaves.
Is when he leaves, yes. So just before he left in January, there was a group in Lithuania. It was like an actual...
Lithuania?
Yeah, an actual like armed combat with tanks, and they played capture the flag at night.
Yeah.
And so the situation's like hot at this point.
Yeah.
While he's in space, things continue to get more and more intense. There is, in June 1991, there's an election, and Boris Yeltsin is elected president of the Russian Federation, which is interesting because now there's the Soviet Union, and then there's like this Russian Federation underneath it. And then in August of 91, there is a coup against Gorbachev that takes place in Moscow. And then there's this famous moment where Boris Yeltsin gets up on top of a tank and like delivers this speech. So Boris is the guy with the paper. He's reading from his paper.
Right.
And he gives a speech basically being like, hey, we shouldn't do this. This isn't cool, guys. And then all of a sudden, the Soviet government sends in tanks. And brings tanks down to Red Square, which is essentially their equivalent of the Capitol building and the White House and stuff like that.
Right.
This is developing very quickly. So he's hearing all this through this ham radio from this Australian. And slowly but surely, his contact starts to diminish with
Mission Control.
Finally, in December of 91, Gorbachev announces that he is stepping down and he's no longer going to be head of the Soviet Union. And pretty quickly, the Soviet Union just collapses.
Right.
He's getting all this, finding out all of this while he's in space. And so he gets a call from Mission Command after all this happens, and they straight up tell him, hey, we don't know when we can get you back, because now the command center is not part of the Russian Federation after the Soviet Union collapses. It's in a different nation, and that nation and Russia are not on good terms.
Right.
And so they don't have a facility they can bring you back to. Also, they don't have any money. Because the whole thing collapsed. So he expected to come home in March, but they were
of 92.
Of 92. But they were like, there's no way that's going to happen. Somehow, through a stroke of luck, there was
someone passing by.
There was just
it was a ham headed to Earth.
It was like, hey, I'm actually going there.
He just stuck his thumb out the space station and put Earth or bust.
Yeah. There was a German sponsorship. That was like, hey, we want to go. We're going to pay $25 million to go up to space.
He's like, can you take me with you?
Yeah.
They show up thinking the space station's empty. He's still there. Yeah. Right?
He's not supposed to be there anymore. Beard.
He's like, it's been...
And he's just saying the ham radio numbers.
Wilson!
There was no one on ham radio.
Oh, yeah. He's talking to himself. Yeah. That's what, yeah.
And he's like, is the Soviet Russia still alive? And they were like, yes.
Is my Australian girl hot or no? Please tell me she's hot.
Please tell me. So they send out this trip. He's actually able to finally come back.
Okay.
He was expected to be up there for, I don't know what it was going to be, like 60 days. He comes back after 311. His body is completely atrophied. They have to like yank him from the ship. He can't move. And he comes back and he is described by...
he looks pale.
Hey, he's described by like witnesses and reporters on the scene when he returns as being pale as flour.
Yeah.
And they rehabilitate him. He ends up deciding, I still want to do stuff like this, despite being trapped in space for 311 days.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like, what else are you going to do? You can't take that resume somewhere and they go, can you explain this gap in your resume? Oh, I was stuck in space.
Yeah,
during the downfall of my country.
I believe that. So he was lost in space essentially for 311 days. Everyone calls him the last Soviet citizen. Did he have enough
provisions up there, I guess?
I mean, he survived.
Happened to the other people who went with him?
I don't know, actually. I think in October of that previous year, there was an opportunity for him to come back.
And
but the issue was, the issue was, on that trip, they didn't have another engineer. And so there would be no one who could stay up there. Though he wasn't by himself the whole time, but in October, they didn't have another engineer to take his place.
Okay.
And so basically he would be going back and leaving it without an engineer to man the base. And so because of that, he weighed his options and was like, hey, even though it looks like Soviet Russia's in a really bad spot, and this is in October, it hasn't collapsed yet.
Right.
He's like, it looks like it's in a really bad spot. He's like, I want to keep this space station alive. I want to be able to man it. And then if another ship comes back, there's no one to go back with it. This causes a lot of problems if I go back on this next ship.
Sure.
He's like, I want to, but he's like, I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And so he ends up staying. I believe he was the only one up there. And then Soviet Union collapses and he stays up there for 4 months after the collapse of the Soviet Union by himself in space with very limited contact to the ground, except for this Australian person he's talking to on ham radio.
Yeah. That's a rom-com in the making.
And so, yeah, he gets called the last Soviet because he was the last Soviet. He comes out with his Soviet patch. And
she literally couldn't find any love on Earth.
So she went to space. Yeah, and she found her dream man floating.
It would be called Speaking to the Stars.
The stars. The Fault in Our Stars.
I'm trying to think if we can make a rom-com out of this.
You could easily, right? Yeah, this easily is a rom-com. You're right.
It's every night her being like, all right, you still up there?
And he doesn't answer one day. And it's like super...
Sergei?
Fire on board the space station.
Yeah, so much drama.
There's a fire. And she has to come save him. So she builds a rocket.
Outside trying to jump because she's dumb. She's like, she's kind of dumb. She's on her trampoline being like, I can get there. She's just like, she didn't understand how far away space is, you know? So she's kind of dumb. And
I was thinking she's like in the outback building her own makeshift rocket to go up and
she opens. If it's a cartoon, she can open her roof, right?
If it's a cartoon,
you know,
if it's
anything's possible in animation, you know.
That scene's a cartoon. The rest of it's live action, but that one scene becomes a cartoon.
Cartoony cartoon.
Yeah, it's like and just so. And
everyone's like, a different movie.
That looked different.
Like a Meet the Robinsons kind of cartoon. You're like, what the heck?
What just happened here?
What was that part in the middle?
Scene was weird. Things changed quite a bit.
Yeah, but she got here.
She goes up. She saves the day. Then she goes back without him.
Yeah.
They talk the rest of the movie on ham radio again.
I'm so glad I saved you. And he's like, yeah, me too.
I wish you brought me back with you.
Yeah, I didn't think that through when I built my return ship with one seat.
It was only one seat. Yeah, I did have a trunk that I didn't bring any carry-on luggage with.
She puts him in the seat, sends it back to Earth. Now she's up there.
Now she's stuck, and he has to get her back. But he's a better engineer.
Yeah. Not as good a movie the other way around.
Yeah.
He knows trampolines don't work.
But he can't get enough rocket fuel, so he builds a rocket that he uses a trampoline.
Just
vault. Yeah. It's a series
like Flappy Bird.
It's a series of trampolines.
Yeah, you get
up to space.
You get it. Babylon Tower.
This is insane. So that's Sergei, the last Soviet.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah, that's the last Soviet.
Oh, wow.
He made it back, but the Soviet Russia didn't. Soviet Russia did not make it back. But honestly, lately, kind of seems like they did.
Is that what you want to end it on?
I don't know.
You want to end it on, seems like they're back, baby.
I'm not saying it seems like they're back, baby.
We're so back.
I'm saying it like the villain is back in the second movie, where it's like, oh, I thought he died.
Well, you know that Putin is in the song.
What?
Yeah, you know that Putin's referenced in Our God is an Awesome God.
Oh, he wasn't
Putin. He wasn't Putin on the Ritz. Our God is an awesome God. He's got thunder in his footsteps and lightning.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's time to fiddle off. Putin on the Ritz.
Putin on the Ritz.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you liked it and you want more TILLN, make sure you subscribe. And also, there's an episode called Dear Moon, which is about a project that a billionaire was trying to take a bunch of artists to the dark side of the moon because he thought that would inspire some new art. Among the amazing artists that he was like, okay, these are the most creative, visionary people in our society, was none other than Steve Aoki. So it's a great episode. Thank you for checking out our show. I think you'd enjoy it. That's linked somewhere or whatever. But we will see you next week for another episode of Things I Learned Last Night.